Excellent. All right. So welcome all to this Thrive Together Masterclass, which will be on secrets to exceptional client care. And our guests today are Ben Bahnsen, who is located normally in Oregon, currently in
Right now, I'm in Windermere, England.
England. That's it. So normally we're 9 hours apart,
Yeah.
and currently just one because I'm outside Paris. So Ben's enjoying some travels, and then Courtney Welsh is in California. Courtney is a director of operations for Smith and Berg Partners, and just about coming up on 20 years in the industry, which doesn't seem possible, but time stops for no one, right? And even Kathleen and I have been working together 7 years now, over 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So hitting those milestones. And Ben is a wonderful case. I'm excited to have him on the call because he's been both an agent, a broker, and a client experience specialist on a team. So he's one of those people who can, put on multiple hats and swap them and have different perspectives on the business and basically how to offer the highest level of care to our clients from every perspective. So we're really excited to have you here, both of you, and pick your brains and all be together to kind of learn and figure out how we can always be upping our level of service that we offer to our clients. So we have quite a few people on the call today, which is really exciting. If you are in attendance and you want to pop into the chat where you're located or what your role is on a team, if you're a solo agent, you're a director of operations, you're an assistant to an agent, you're a buyer's agent on a team, that'll really help us kind of figure out what roles we're all playing and what we have to learn from each other. And then also throughout the call, if anything comes up questions wise, you can pop it in the chat. We have Kathleen, our fabulous Zoom assistant on the call, who will be helping us field those so that we can make sure we don't miss anything, because we know your time is precious, and the fact that you signed up today to be with us really means a lot. We want to make sure that we're able to address anything that you have and offer the highest level of value to you. So welcome, Ben and Courtney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, so I have a few questions that I did send over to you, and we'll go through those, and then we'll kind of see how it evolves accordingly. So the first place I wanted to start was really with regard to communication, right? Because that's sort of an essential way in which we can set expectations with clients, keep them informed, and it's sort of the core of the service that we offer, right? Is being able to take people through a deal from start to finish with our experience to guide them along the way. So what are some of the ways in which you set up communication with your clients, and how do you kind of set that rhythm with them?
Who should go
Courtney,
first?
go ahead if you like.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
So we have a system on our team. Just so you guys know, my team has 8 agents and 5 administrators, which is maybe a little bit of a different number than sometimes we would have, but we do quite a bit of volume and need a lot of hands on deck. So our team, we have 3 ways of communicating. We do a text thread with all of our clients, and everyone that's on the team on the admin side, plus our partners, and if there's an associate partner involved, would be on that thread. And we start that at the very beginning. Typically, if it's a seller, it's right upon, signing listing agreement. If it's a buyer, it's usually more right around the time we're submitting an offer or we've gone into escrow. And we find that that's really helpful because it keeps everyone on the same page. And we will use that text thread to send out, sort of basic information. We also obviously communicate via email. But what we typically will try to do is any important information, anything that might not land well with a client, is always done over the phone 100% of the time. And then the thing that we're always talking about is how it's so important to follow that up with something in writing, whether it be on the text thread or in an email, so that you can memorialize the conversation. But we try to do all of our negotiations on the phone. Anytime we have to give them news that might, you know, that might have nuance in it, and we don't want them to take it the wrong way via text. We are all very accustomed to picking up the phone and having those personal conversations.
Nice. That's beautiful. Yeah, because the asynchronous communication of where, you write it is not when they read it, really can lend itself to misunderstandings or, in terms of tone. And so in that case, really being able to respond to the client and their reaction to what you're saying in real time. Seems like an excellent touch point. And so you find people are really more responsive via text than email, that's where they prefer to get their information.
Text seems to work really well, and we sort of create that expectation up front that that's where they can reach us very easily. It doesn't mean that we're not also talking to them over the phone, but the text thread is great because it does keep everyone in the loop. That's where we provide, real-time showing feedback to our listing clients, and so whoever was hosting the showing is on that thread and they're able to give that feedback right then and there. And we've just found that really makes our clients feel good and feel taken care of, and they can kind of always reach somebody.
Right. Okay. So I was going to say, do you set expectations around response times or times that you're available to respond to text, or how does that work?
Yes, we do a degree. So my partners, Ron and David, are always on those threads, and as agents, they kind of understand that they may be more responsive after hours. And we've kind of created a rule for the admin team that after hours, there's no expectation to respond. We were joking this morning that I need to put one of our threads on Do Not Disturb, because we have a client on the East Coast that keeps texting us at 3 a.m. when she wakes up for her 6 a.m. workout, and I keep getting woken up. Most of our team has a work cell phone though. So that's the other thing. So they can also just shut down the admin team they can shut down their phone after hours and not worry about it. I've chosen to keep my personal phone and my work phone the same, just because I didn't want to be walking around with two phones. It was too much for me.
Right. Okay. So then the expectation on the team is really, outside of working hours, the baton is passed to sales, and they're responsible for responding, and then that seems sustainable for an admin. Right.
Yes. But I should say our agents also have set expectations with our clients that they're not going to always be responding in the evenings. Ron jokes about how nothing good ever comes from a 7 p.m. conversation. Somebody's probably already at home stressed trying to make dinner, or they've already had their first evening cocktail or whatever it might be. And we just
are loose and they're ready.
That unless there's something urgent that needs to be addressed, most of our clients recognize that they're going to hear from us first thing in the morning, and they feel comfortable with that.
And they respond well. I think that's, we're going to talk about trust in a few minutes, but I think, all the research shows that when you set boundaries, really any kind of boundary about how this is how you win with me, this is how you can expect things from me, people feel comfortable, right? Knowing where they stand, and then they know they don't have the question in their mind, am I bothering you? They know I can put whatever I want out there and I'll hear back, at the appropriate time. And so that really builds rapport pretty quickly. Whereas I know some teams are really hesitant to set expectations around timing that, suits them, but it ends up sort of wearing people out pretty quickly, right? To always have to react, especially to those 7 p.m. conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ben, what do you do for your clients' communication?
Yeah, so I have a little bit smaller operation. Just me, when I was working with my colleague Haley last, we had max about three people on the team. So Haley was the lead. I was like the buyer's agent, as well as client care specialist. And then we actually had a transaction coordinator as well. So the transaction coordinator wasn't really brought into the loop until something was happening. So when we got that contract signed by the sellers, or when we got a contract under contract on for a buyer, that's when the transaction coordinator would get brought on. And then with us, similarly as well, emails, texts, all the above that were mentioned beforehand with Courtney. And similarly as well, different modes depending on what information is being given at the time. Now for me, and as the client care specialist and buyer's agent, saying up boundaries regarding when you're going to answer and not answer, I will be the first to admit I'm the worst at that. And so that's also why I was on that team though, because I was the after hours person. But all those were defined in our initial meetings with clients. Is like, this is Haley. This is what happens with her and her role. So I guess going back, the main thing with the expectations with us is on the onset is explain the role that we have as their agent, explain the roles within the team. So my teammate Ben. Later on in the process, you'll meet our transaction coordinator, Lisa, so forth and so on. And so it's being upfront at the beginning as to who will you hear from as well, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I reached out to you. Why am I hearing from them? So it's important out the gate, I think, to just make sure everyone kind of knows who's part of this team, who they might hear from, and making those introductions, whether in those initial conversations or looping someone into a thread of emails saying, hey, I've attached so-and-so here. This is what their role is. And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, we've seen a lot of teams where that's sort of a struggle. That handoff can be a struggle because the client has built rapport with the agent. And then sometimes, now we're going to have the listing and it's handed off to an operations specialist. And they're like, well, I don't know, Ben. I know Haley. Like Haley, maybe Haley's my cousin or something. We built a lot of trust and rapport. And so why are you handing me off? And I think that we've also seen that can be done really smoothly. Like you said, I'm hitting you to Ben because he's the specialist. Because Ben knows how to handle the operations and the business. And Ben being there frees me up to be able to go negotiate on your behalf and really offer you better service in my lane as the agent. And people understand that. People expect that, and they really actually are happy to have a team behind you. So I think it's sometimes that mindset, right? It's like, I don't want to pass my client off to my assistant. It's like, but your client, your assistant is offering your client an excellent level of service, right? That you wouldn't necessarily, almost certainly wouldn't be able to offer all on your own. And I'm thinking about your case with Haley also because Haley is a mom with young children, right? And so one of the ways that you can offer her service is by being available in the time that she would want to be available for her family. And so that was part of that arrangement.
Exactly, because she kind of outright, like in her emails and everything else, in her voice recordings, she stipulates like my working day is 9 to 6. I will answer the next business day in the morning, so forth and so on. And so I think going back to what you were saying earlier about how that is presented to a potential client is we've actually lost clients because of that.
Yeah. So how does that go down? Because I think that's, a great fear would be that people would lose clients, but I'm wondering, which types of clients are not responsive to that kind of a response, or how is that played out?
It's played out when during the interview process. They're interviewing agents, and they can kind of boldface kind of see in the email or the voicemail is that these are my working hours. And so granted, that's kind of like the typical working hours, but yes, real estate agents work like almost 24/7 to a degree. But clients get it in their mindset that, oh, well, if I work all day and I need to see a house after hours, like she's not going to be my person that, yeah, she maybe says that she'll do it or he'll do it, but he might not be available. And so this other agent said that they don't stipulate kind of their times. And again, yes, it's nice to have those boundaries, but I think there needs to be a better way to do that. Especially like weekends, because for our market in particular, we have a lot of people who relocate. And so they're coming in for the weekend only. And if you're Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, then, and you say that, even though you have a team that facilitates, it's making sure that the potential client understands that they're not going to be left in the dark.
Right. And I say, yeah, as you said, like that is one reason to have a team, right? It's because it expands your availability because you can alternate and have shifts. You know, some people on duty, and especially on teams, you see like there's certain agents, you know, you'd have a weekend that
Right.
you'll be the one who's in the open house. But I think it also, you know, setting those expectations is so key, because imagine if that wasn't clear in the beginning, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden
Yeah.
they want to see, you know, houses every weekend, and Haley's either pulled between, you know, not
Right.
giving them exactly what they want and not being there for her family. So I think it helps, yeah, as you're pre-qualifying, as you're figuring out really, is this a fit in both ways?
Right.
A key element to it. I'd
Right.
love to circle to that trust element also, because that's something that really, especially in these residential real estate transactions, where there's almost always another emotional event in the background, and it's such a key, you know, important financial transaction in people's lives. Emotion runs high, right? And so that's really one of the areas of value that we can provide, is being that, you know, someone that the clients know they can count on, that's in you know, sort of in control of it, that steady presence. So how do you build trust with clients, or how do you understand that process? Is there something intentional that you do around it? Or, you know, and also coming back to the idea of, if the trust has been built with the agent, how do we then have the assistant or the operations person be the ambassador and an extension of that, and continue to help build the trust?
Right. Yeah. I mean, on my end, the biggest word for me is authenticity. And so if people know that you're coming from a place of authenticity, and like they don't see you as a salesperson who's just trying to sell them the house, or get their house in the market by like the lowest commission, blah blah blah. It's all about authenticity and coming across that you actually care. You're a friend that is, and you have a knowledgeable friend. And that's what it comes down to for me. And transparency about everything, reliability. Can they count on you to be there? Your availability, kind of stemming back from what I was talking about earlier, your availability, your proactiveness on getting information to them. And then evolve it too is the follow through.
Yes.
And so you, at the beginning, when you're saying these expectations, like you're describing the role that I play as your real estate agent, do you follow through with everything that you said you were going to do? So yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of on my side. Yeah.
that's so beautiful. Yeah. And because I think that's also where the operations professionals are so valuable to the business, is in helping with that follow through, right? Because the agent can, you know, builds a rapport and makes that promise, a salesperson, to the client. And then behind it, oftentimes they need that support in order to be able to reliably, consistently deliver that level of service, you know, as they're out also getting other clients and building other relationships. So I definitely want to think
Right.
about, and I'm going to pick your brain a little bit later about, you know, how you consistently and reliably offer that service, in terms of, you know, kind of what tools, or, you know, how you can
Sure.
keep it nice to be able to do that. Courtney, what do you think about trust?
I mean, it's a lot of the same things. The thing that I talk about a lot with my team is saying what you're going to do and then following through with it. So it's the same idea of follow through, but also really clear communication up front, so that you set expectations up front, and then you meet or hopefully exceed those expectations. And I think that builds a lot of trust. I think also just speaking with confidence, and even if you don't have the answer in that moment, sort of faking it in that moment, and making sure that you get those answers for your questions, I mean, for your clients, and you follow through. And I wanted to just mention something that Ben had said earlier. I think Ron and David, who are my partners here, do such an amazing job of of setting us up for success, because when they're meeting with the clients initially, they talk about our team, they talk about who they're going to be interacting with once the deal is signed. So it doesn't come as a surprise at all that they hear from me, that they hear from our listing manager, our marketing manager, their assistant Garrett, Natalie, who is our concierge and also our showing assistant, they know that all those people exist and that they play an integral role on our team. And so I think that's also, if anybody is on a team and struggling with that handoff, I think it starts with the agents and it starts with how they set you up. And I've worked on other teams and I've never worked with a group that does such a good job of ensuring that we're already kind of set up for success. And then we just kind of take it from there, which is great.
Yeah. Kathleen talks about the baton, you pass the baton, kind of make that sure that handoff is really smooth. And as you're saying, before, in terms of if you don't have an answer to a question, one thing that Kathleen's taught me pretty early on is you say, like, I will go get that, right? Right. So your answer doesn't always have to be the direct answer to their question. Your answer can be, I am absolutely going to go find that out for you right now. And it puts there at, peace of mind that, okay, I don't have that niggle, I know she's got it, she's taking care of it, and then you can go get the answer. Because I think sometimes, especially when we're new in an operations role, everybody has imposter syndrome, but you're like, I don't know. I don't know everything. I don't even know most things, and so just having that in your back pocket of like, I am going to go get that answer for you, and I think it really calms people. And then also you have more confidence to be able to show up and say, whatever they ask, I have an answer. It might not be.
And then no matter what, make sure you actually get that answer for them.
And make sure, exactly, that's that follow through piece again. And I was thinking
For sure,
about
like sidebar texting the person that you want to ask the question to see if you can get it answered in real time. Just tread water while you're getting the answer, show up, and that would be an ideal kind of scenario. But I'm definitely hearing a lot about, no one wants a surprise in their real estate transaction. And so they definitely don't want a surprise handoff. They don't want a surprise new player, in the game that now you have to learn about, right? And so that's the expectation piece, and introducing the team is sort of giving them as much information up front as possible so that everything unfolds smoothly for them, as smoothly as possible. So I'm thinking about, you mentioned, Ben, like being proactive and being able to anticipate things. And I've really seen, everybody wants that in their operations person from the beginning. And that's really one of those skills and abilities and talent that comes with experience. Right? Like the more that you've seen happen, the more you can anticipate what could occur and sort of be proactive. And so one thing I love about this dynamic and these types of experiences is that we can learn from each other and kind of shorten the learning curve to that experience, right? We don't all have to make the same mistakes or see the same things go sideways to learn from them, but we do need to be able to share those experiences and sort of help each other get farther along in the path. So what are some issues you've learned to anticipate in the transaction, or really any deal, that helps you kind of anticipate and be proactive? So like on the buyer side, issues could be things of market frustration and fatigue. So available homes, competitiveness, if you're really in a desirable market. And so potential buyers just get really fatigued and frustrated that they can't get an offer in or in a time or whatever like that. There could be frustrations with the lender. The lender is causing issues, or like they keep on asking for all the paperwork, and the buyers can understand they thought they've submitted everything, and so frustrations there, or trying to get the best rate. Negotiations, inspections, lack of seller flexibility, their current living situation even. So like if they can't get out of if they're trying to sell their home, is their home contingent, different things like that. And then I find a lot, at least in our market, there's FOMO, fear of missing out. So like they like this home, but what if, things like that. So additional costs of inspections, if they have to extend the contract for any reason. Those are kind of some issues that proactively we start thinking about, like, okay, I need to answer these questions kind of up front and be able to be prepared for when they occur and how am I going to respond to those concerns. And the same for sellers too, like market frustration, if they're not getting people through the door, if they maybe price their house too low, they're getting tons of people through the door, they want it to stop. Feedback that they're getting, like if their house is dated or things of that nature, price adjustments, updates, repairs, Again, too, contingent offers, like all the what ifs and rent backs and replacement homes. What happens if they terminate and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just having been a real estate agent as well, is trying to soften the blows before maybe the punch comes. So like maybe preemptively tell, if you know what's happening in the market or whatever, you can kind of preemptively have those conversations. So again, it's not out of the blue, similar to a person. It's not a situation like, okay, if this were to happen, we're set up for that.
Yeah. And how much detail do you go into about it, or how much do you lay out for them in this initial buyer consultation, or like a second, do you do it in stages? Like maybe in the first one, you're gonna paint some reality, but not too much because they're really excited. Right. And then maybe the second time you meet with them, you share more about what could happen. So I think it's a fine balance, right? It's that they're,
yes,
they need enough excitement to want to make this purchase, but right. They need reality that they're actually prepared to see it through.
Right. Yeah. So definitely it's in stages. So initially, of course, it would kind of just be a rough overview of how the process works in our area, because especially with a lot of relocation buyers in particular that we work with, the processes are different. Like we don't have lawyers and we have escrow and we have different. So the initial meeting is just the bullet points of what to expect during the process. And as we go through the process, then it's milestone videos, like tutorial type videos that are pre-recorded, that are then sent to kind of help them, okay, we're about to make an offer. Here are some tips and tricks that we can maybe use. So it's all about different steps and balances, as well as we do, both for buyers and sellers, have a special like presentation packet that's online that they can retrieve at any time. And so there's a lot of information. There's even copies of all the contracts, things like that. So if they really want to get into it or they have some questions, they can also then refer back to that as well. That's a little bit more extensive.
Yeah, I'm sure there are the analyticals out there who just, need the information in order to feel comfortable moving forward. And then there are other people who that's just like overkill, they want the high level view, and that's sort of sufficient. So I can see how that does build trust to be able to speak to both. And I'd forgotten that Haley does those milestone videos, which is also a really great option, right? So she has her standard emails that go throughout the different moments of the transaction, and that's included with the video. So it has that real personal touch. Also, because not everybody reads all the these lengthy emails for giving that information. Some people really prefer to have it given to them via video. So it's nice to be able to speak kind of to both communication styles, learning styles. About you, Courtney?
Couple of thoughts. One is I had a coach years ago that just always talked about, being proactive versus reactive. And that really stuck with me. So in general, I try to anticipate as much as I can. And one of the things that we do is when issues come up in an escrow or during a listing process, we'll do sort of a case study afterward. And whatever that issue might have been, we very quickly add it to our checklist of something that we come up with something that would avoid that issue next time. So California right now is having a lot of issues with people getting insurance. The insurance market is very tight because of the recent fires we've had. There's been a lot of rain, and so we've run into issues where we couldn't have anticipated before that the buyer was going to have this much trouble getting insurance. So now we write into all of our contracts that the buyer must apply for homeowners insurance within 3 days of acceptance. And we just make that a term. And then we're also then following up, checking in. If it's our buyer, we write it in if we're the listing agent or the buyer's agent, because we want to also hold our buyers accountable to doing that. And making sure they understand how important it is. So that's just one example of something that came up in the past where they were having trouble with insurance availability. It almost killed the deal. And so we came up with something that would avoid that in the future. And then also, I have to just say, I've personally gone through the process of selling or buying and selling a home over the last few years with my team and got to see it from that side of things.
Yeah. Yes.
And it gave me such an incredible amount of empathy for our clients and the emotional and financial roller coaster that they're going through, and really understanding that at every moment they're thinking about this deal.
Yeah.
So again,
For sure.
sometimes just reaching out to them and saying, hey, how's it going? Like, is there anything, just knowing that they're probably thinking about questions that they want to ask you and holding back. I mean, I'm actually closing escrow on my on the sale of my home tomorrow, and I constantly want to ask Katie, who's doing my job for me, because I needed to have an arm's length. I constantly want to ask her for updates, and I'm holding back and I'm holding back. And I'm realizing that's probably how our clients are feeling. So just a bit more outreach, making sure that they know you're always available to them, I think will then help, help get ahead of issues.
Yes, I love that too, because it's really acknowledging the human element of it all, right? And that this is just it's your job, but it's their life. And so in this case, it's your job and your life. But really having that, holding space for them to be able to have an emotional reaction to things, even though, that's more work for you, or, slows down the process or something, but that goes a long way because, again, this is something you see all the time, and maybe they do, 4 times in their life or something. And so, there's the uncertainty, there's the emotion, there's the, all that plays into that. Basically, really, I could see where clients would value that extra outreach, right? And ask, as you said, how you're doing. And then also to anticipate, Kathleen talks about, do they have pets? Do they need help watching their pets on moving day? Do they have kids? Did they order, food, and those types of things, those like basic needs elements that sometimes, if we're not paying attention to, can totally have an impact on their experience, right? If you're starving, your experience of the move and the transaction is much different than if you feel fed and your children are cared for, and and then it's a little bit easier to just move into like a rational space versus an emotional space. Nice. All right, I'd love to talk about systems and tools, because that's one of my favorite topics. So in order to be able to offer this level of service, kind of how do you keep yourself organized? Do you use a platform? Do you use checklists? Do you use Trello or something similar? Like how do you make sure that you're able to follow through on what you've promised?
I'll go first. I really love systems. It's why I do what I do.
We're in good company here.
Yep. I was an agent for a minute, and it was just not a good fit. And it was clear that I was much better suited for the administrative side of things. So I'm just looking at my notes because I want to make sure I cover everything. We use a system called Brokerment, which allows us to do all of our deal tracking and give us very, very accurate information about like the money side of things, because I also track our income. But it allows you to have each of your transactions and checklists within those transactions. So whenever we take a listing, we launch the transaction in Brokerment, and we automatically launch, different checklists. And we have a day one checklist. So it's things that on the day you get the listing signed, you got to get these 7 things done. And then we have a, sort of life of the listing checklist that goes, it's the preparation checklist before it goes on the MLS. And then there's something that after that, for while it's just on the market. And we have the exact same thing for escrows. So a day one must do, and then everything from the time there till the closing. And those are very helpful. The day one must do's especially, because those just get you, moving through, getting all your intros out, making sure you're contacting all the people you need to contact. And then we as a group meet every morning. We have a morning huddle call, And so I have a Google sheet, and each of the admins has one as well, where I just keep a running list of all the different things that I want to talk about on the morning huddle. And it's my morning huddle / daily must-dos list. And I have it separated by, you know, potential listings that are signed, like coming soon listings on the MLS, and then escrows. And then there's a little section below there for leases, and if a deal has closed but there's a lease back, I want to keep that on there with notes, because we don't disappear once the deal closes. We're going to make sure our client gets through their lease back period, they get their security deposit back, their move out goes well, they remember to do their utilities, all that kind of stuff. So I keep it, you know, sectioned off that way, and it's color coded. Kathleen has seen it. It's pretty robust.
A work of art, I'm sure.
It's open on my desktop at all times. So I'm constantly referring back to it, updating it. And at any given moment, if I couldn't be on our morning huddle, I feel pretty confident that somebody else could go onto my sheet and see the things that are green, and those are the things that need to be discussed. And so that's that. And then the other system we use, we're transitioning to using the Compass CRM. We had been using one called Copper, which is through Google, and it's a great system. We just weren't utilizing it, and we were paying a lot of money. And since we're with Compass, we could be using the Compass CRM for free. So it made sense.
Yeah, which we enjoyed back when it was contactually with Kathleen. That was our CRM also. So I know it has a good functionality, and then certainly there are advantages to using your broker's materials, because that's, they set it up that way to be interesting.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And then where do you keep track of the key dates in the transaction? Is that also in Brokerman, or is there a view that the client, do you use like Google Calendar invites, or how do
we have calendars? Yeah, everything we do is through through G Suite. So we have Google Calendar. All of the key dates are put into the Google Calendar on day one. And then we're also just updating them. We're more systematized in the background, and maybe not as much with the client. I think and Kathleen could speak to this as well, our approach with the client is very hands-on, very white glove, high level, concierge level service. So there's a lot of just direct communication versus here's something that we don't want them to rely on the calendar necessarily. We want them to just know they can pick up the phone and say, when are the contingencies due? And we'll be able to say it in that moment.
Nice.
So,
and you can all see it because you have the view of the Google.
Have it. Yeah.
Anybody can respond at any one moment to answer that question.
Yeah.
I like that transparency piece too, for that, other people can see your sheet if they need to step in. So there's a little bit of flexibility for when life happens, but then also, just oftentimes the more that people can see, it's easier to be on the same page and be able to act as one, right? It's like one, we all have shared information and we know where to find it very quickly, then we're able to sort of serve as a united unit instead of, well, I got to go ask so-and-so for that. And I think often that really is very, it's very calming to the agent's brain, the salespeople's brain, if they know, they don't want to have to track it, but they do know, they want to know at a glance where we are. They want a dashboard view. They want to be able to respond to a client's question, in 30 seconds or less about a key date, even if they don't know that date, and they shouldn't know that date, that it's not their job to know that date. They want to be able to know where to find it really easily.
Or who can tell them it quickly. Yeah,
exactly. And then how is the handoff of information from like a listing appointment to the team? How do you handle, if there's a special situation or something that was discussed at the appointment, and then, we want to make sure that the operations team delivers on that. How do you handle that communication internally?
So for listings, if there was a listing appointment, but the listing hasn't been signed yet, we have a system where there's, for the listing appointment, prior to that, we have a book published that's like this beautiful book that goes to the client, and then we also get a digital copy. After the meeting, we already know that it's that we're gonna be sending something out. Sorry, there's a loud ambulance going by. We have what we call a next steps letter that's already sort of being worked on in the background, and we're going to be plugging in information, including a digital copy of that book, a CMA on their property. We have a section of links that they can go to find our, you know, different marketing. So past videos that we've done, past websites, things like that. And we tailor those links to the property. So let's say it's a, you know, a newer construction house in Brentwood. Well, we're going to pick a video and photos of another newer construction house in Brentwood so that they can kind of get the vibe.
They're apples to
all
apples.
happening in the background while we know Ron and David or whoever is going to the listing appointment. And then that goes out usually within, you know, the same day or within 24 hours. And then once we sign a listing agreement, we have what's called a listing launch meeting, and we've got a checklist of everything we need to ask. And that goes, it's a very comprehensive checklist, all the way down to, you know, how are we going to get keys? Do they, you know, we have a question in there, like, what are some nuances of this client that we might need to know? Like, what's going on in the background? Why are they selling? Is it a divorce? Is it a relocation? Are they the developers and all it? They don't really care about like holding our hand. They just care about the bottom line, you know, so that stuff helps. And we try to ask all of those questions up front. And then from there, our listing manager takes it and runs with it.
It's like a, you know, it's a debrief in one fell swoop where you get all the information that you need in order to execute, right? And to deliver that service. Because oftentimes we've seen sometimes it happens more piecemeal, certainly less intentionally and more like haphazardly. A question comes up and, you know, then you're going to bother the agent to ask the question, but you need the answer to be able to move forward. So it's certainly much more efficient to have, you know, that brain dump right after the call while it's fresh in the agent's mind. And then you're able to move really quickly. And kind of other times we see assistants will be doing some like treasure hunting in the email or their text or trying to get, you know, the information for the in that way. So that's efficient. And then I love that, your checklist for that meeting has been compiled over years, right? In terms of
and it's constantly being changed. If we think of something else that we need to add on there, it's, you know, it's editable and easy to add to.
Beautiful. All right, Ben, do you want to talk systems? What tools do you use to stay organized?
So once we get the initial like either introduction from a referral agent or a phone call, something like that, usually we follow that up with an email, like saying up the time that we're going to meet with them. When included with that email, we send them a Google Forms questionnaire. And the Google Forms questionnaire gives us, of course, contact information. It gives us a little bit more information about what they're looking for, price ranges, do they have a lender, some basic kind of get out the gate questions. And then some fun questions at the bottom too, like what you like to do like on your weekends, what kind of food do you enjoy, drinks, coffee, tea, that type of thing. So get a little personal there as well. So again, when we go back, like Courtney said, we know the little intricacies of them a little bit more to a degree. So that's how it starts. With the email and that Google Forms questionnaire to get the basics. So we're somewhat prepared and have an idea of that first meeting, what we're kind of getting into and what potential tough conversations we may or may not have to have at the get-go. At any rate, after that, whether in person or on that Zoom call, it's just a standard notebook and journal. So people can see that you're actively writing notes and like you're taking in their information as opposed to typing or putting it on your phone.
That's an interesting one. I think we've talked about that, right? Is that Haley feels, you know, even if a digital copy might be nice in terms of how to hand that information off, it might be a little bit easier. She felt like it was putting a distance, right? Or it seemed like she was distracted.
I did. She did the opposite.
You did. You did. But, you know, you made that observation that, you know, writing it down shows you're really taking it seriously. I think there's an association of, you know, really engaging.
I think there is. It's just,
Yeah.
And then after that meeting, they also then get we send the high note presentation, kind of what I talked about earlier. That gives YouTube links to videos talking about the city, talking about us, the team, reviews, contract information, a little bit about the area, different things like that. So they always have access to this high note presentation. And we've actually found that we've retained, or not retained, but received a fair amount of listings because of that, because you can also gauge, or you can see when they look at the presentation, and you can kind of, okay, maybe I should maybe chime in again here with something. At any rate, they
yeah,
already
somebody you haven't talked to them in a few days, but you see they, 10
yeah,
minutes ago they opened it and you're like, oh, they're
yeah,
thinking
they're
about
like,
me. Yeah,
okay,
that's
all right,
interesting data.
yeah, because after interviewing
Timing is
clients,
everything. Timing is
yeah,
everything.
it really is. So high note for that on the onset as well. And then as far as CRMs are concerned, follow-up boss. And then within follow-up boss, that's where we, of course, keep all the client information, all the important dates. We can do batch mailings if we're going to do something for all of our buyers or all of our sellers. We can send a batch email to all of them. That's where we leave the notes. It also is connected to Google email, so it feeds into it, so you can have it all in one spot. And then yeah, so when you do make those handwritten notes, then you go back. It's another step, but you go back in there and you leave the notes for the team to be able to see what has transpired since the last you spoke with them. And then with the help with you and your team, we got on board with Trello. And Trello for clients, of course, workflows in particular. So both buyers and sellers, what happens after the initial meeting, we're under contract now. Oh, we fell out of contracts. Then the steps are automated and there's checklists within Trello that helps us facilitate getting everything done as it should and putting everything in the right spots. And again, the team has access to that and they can see where we're at, what needs to be accomplished still for the client. And not only for the client, but also events. So we do a lot of events throughout the year, things like that. So it's systems on that front as well that the whole team has access to be able to see, okay, what needs to get done for us to prepare for these events. So not only client, but also back of house stuff as well. And then day to day, there's also a Google task board that's shared. And so, yeah, we have, oh, so I guess I should go back to, or I guess it somewhat ties in, but another thing that we use is called Folio, and that's that online calendar that the client would have access to. And so similar to what Courtney alluded to earlier, given that white glove service, yeah, they have access to this calendar, but it's always the night before inspection or the morning of signing at escrow. It's like, hey, and we can see you tomorrow, or like any questions leading into it. But they always kind of have that calendar that they can look back to just kind of ease the anxiety of what's happening, and they can kind of see it in real time, and then followed, of course, with the hands-on text and calls and whatnot to make sure
We're
they
not
know
gonna
what's
let
going
the
on.
calendar speak for itself necessarily, right? Because that doesn't,
Right.
you're gonna have those
Yeah, because
extra.
the calendar there too also gives, we can put the escrow contact information, their inspector contact information, it's like kind of all the information needed is right there for them to look at. And then two, going back to the referral aspect of it, we also are able to incorporate the referral agent. So then they can know what's going on with the client that they referred us and they're like, okay, where's my money? So
Status.
they can kind of
So
see where we're
that's,
at with that transaction with the client that they referred us. So all the important parties are included on there. And then folio, and then when we actually go into contracts, both buyers and sellers, with our transaction coordinator, they get emails with next steps and things like that, but they get a link to Dropbox, and Dropbox will hold all of the contracts and forms that they have signed and inspections they've received, all the information, HOA documents, all the everything that's as received will go real time into there, and then they can always have access to that to review and look over and have all that. And then for workflows within the team, we have the group text and we have a thread. So we kind of know what's going on with everything. If there's special notes, someone went to the meeting, but someone didn't, we can make a note like, hey, this transpired, or this was said, or this is a concern, things of that nature.
nice. That's lovely. And I'd love to talk more about these events. You mentioned using Trello for the events, and that's something that you and your team do quite a bit, right? You have these like very special client appreciation events, and you're also known for your gifts, your gifting. So I'd definitely like to go and pick your brain about, what types of gifts do you give, or how do you choose? I mean, I'm hearing that you ask right from the get-go some of their preferences. I'm imagining maybe that plays into
Oh,
what you end
yes.
up giving them as gifts, or that's a nice
Right.
wow. Is like, I forgot I told you that I love this very specific kind of coffee.
Uh-huh, exactly. I mean, I think the key, again, to any client relationship is just listening. And
Mhm.
so a lot of time it comes back to that authenticity. If you're really there to listen to them and hearing what they have to say and not trying to just pitch them and sell them and all that kind of stuff, then you'll pick up those little nuances of, oh, they said they went to this bakery. That's a vegan bakery. Oh, they said they didn't like, they don't drink. So I'm not going to put champagne in their closing gift, things of that nature. So it's being able to pick up on that stuff. But yes, the questionnaire comes into play wholeheartedly with the gifts. So typically on the onset, when they come into town, they get a welcome bag. And depending on the client and the time that they arrive and scheduling and everything, if they're arriving on a Saturday, but we're not going to meet till Monday, they get a welcome bag delivered to their Airbnb, their hotel room, things of that nature. And so it's usually a touristy type bag because we live in a tourist town, Bend, Oregon. So a tote bag, and it has everything's as local as it can be. So it could be a wine, it could be banana bread for in the morning for them, different treats and cookies and magazines and books. And so if they have kids, if they have a dog with them, there's dog treats, there's dog toys, there's little things like that. So that's what they get at the welcome meeting. If they by chance are flying and they can't transport all this stuff back with them, then again, it was listening and remembering, oh, they're flying. So I can't go maybe as aggressive as I normally would, but I'll still make it pointed and just smaller, like just a little more truncated. So that's, yeah, one of those other ones. And then during the process, working with them through showings, and then if they go under contract inspections, they get milestone gifts. So if they're brand new buyers and they just saw their first house that they ever saw, they get baked goods that morning, and a little champagne maybe. And then they pass inspections, they get a box of cupcakes. It's just different things like that. And again, too, oh, are they dairy free? Are they gluten free? Remembering things like that. So yeah, and then if in the process that we know them, if they're going on an anniversary trip, or if they're having, or they just got engaged, or they got time, they get little gifts along the way for special occasions as well.
Yeah, I remember babies. Like you're like, oh, so-and-so is having, and you keep track in your notes, and there's a baby, from a past client, and you're in the loop, and you're sending, yeah, keeping those relationships going through that love language of gifting, which is really fun.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. And then of course, each year they get a home anniversary gift. Again, as local as possible. We have a local gift basket woman that we love and adore, and so she sets up the gift baskets for us. And then we pick them up, and then we deliver them. And then throughout the year as well with that questionnaire, we know birthdays, we know anniversaries. If not, we'll ask the lender if we by chance missed that somehow, get the birth date. So we know when to send a card, and they get a coupon to either the wine shop in town or the ice cream shop if there's a kid, or if they don't drink booze. And then, yeah, the closing gifts, the biggest one of all. And my biggest thing is don't be cheap. Like, it's the last kind of one of the last things that they take away from you. I mean, yes, you're going to follow up with them after the fact. But I've had so many friends and acquaintances in town that are just like, oh, this is what I got. What? Like, um, to give that luxury service again, it's really maximizing your efforts and show how much you care and appreciate that they chose you, because there's so many of us to choose from. So what makes you special? And it's not necessarily the gift, but it's the gift. It shows the time that you put into it, and the care and how much you appreciate them. And you're just not, here's $50 to Home Depot and a hydro flask with my logo on it. Like, uh, it's just a little more nuanced than that for sure.
Yeah, which requires organization, right? I mean, it requires
Right.
intentional, like careful listening throughout, as you're saying, which is part of the service anyway, the part of your process anyway, and the service that you're offering. But it's also it requires an organizational component, right? Because the more clients and past clients you have, the more KIPs that you're going to need to provide. And so I know we set up some Trello checklists, and you have follow-up boss to prompt you, right? And so that you can kind of keep delivering that level of service to past clients, even as your clientele grows, right, over
Right.
time. And that's an important part of your identity as a team and what you offer. I really think we're almost at the hour. Courtney, do you want to hop in on gifts? And I was also wondering about, any ways that you like to surprise and delight, thinking about how you really, that wow factor.
Well, we clearly need to step up our gift game over here with the Berg partners. We're not anywhere near that. I thought we were doing pretty well, but so we have a blog called Tacos and Tequila. It's a weekly blog that we put out. And we're just kind of known for our love of tacos and tequila here. So on theme, when somebody closes, if they drink, they get a bottle of tequila from us. And it's usually in a branded tote bag. We have some hats and things like that. So those are just like little extras. But we just like to be on point with that. We also do gifts at the holiday. So we try to be the first people that they will receive a gift from. So we start our planning in October, and with every effort to make sure that they get their hand delivered gift like by December 1st. So that's something that we like to do. And that comes with like a fun note card that's themed and has, again, there's tequila in there because there has to be, and it's got, a couple of different drinks that we've curated and things like that. For people that don't drink, we have like a high end like beautiful candle that we'll deliver for them. But in terms of things to do to surprise and delight, I don't think we do anything with great consistency, but I just think that I think our clients are always so grateful at the end for the level of communication and the level of service that they received. We are pretty good about getting reviews from almost all of our clients. I'd say we get like 80 to 90% of our clients to write us a review. And the reviews are always raving, and I feel really good about that. And oftentimes we'll get, not that we're looking for it, but people on our team will get personal call outs, which is just really nice. And then internally, I really try to make sure that I'm always giving wins just to our team as well. And when we meet weekly, I like to share a little win about somebody and something somebody did, because I think everyone likes to hear something nice about themselves from time to time.
Appreciation goes all the way, right? To clients, internal on the team. It's an important part of who we are as humans, right? We all need that.
Yeah. You need a little bit of that's my love language for sure. So
words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Yeah. And so I try to give that to others too, internally. But yeah, I mean, Ben, those gifts are epic.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I gotta get you on one of these calls, Ben. We gotta pick your brain because wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And also Ben has a baking background, so you'll notice there's a lot of sweets and carbohydrate things, which also helps with emotions in a transaction.
Yeah. I think the small little thing that's nice, I mean, overall, is just call back to things that you gleaned from previous conversations. So it just could be as minute as a text, just saying, oh, hey, I remember like today you're having this happen. Like, are you going into a dark, like, I hope everything is well. So it's just being able to call back and those little things to just, surprise them and hopefully delight them to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you both so much from this. I've learned a ton, and I know it's brought a lot of value to our community, and we're really grateful for all that you've shared with us today. So we have these master classes the fourth Thursday of every month. Next month, the focus is on hiring, how to grow your business by making the right hire, how to figure out, what kind of leverage you need, how to screen for job fit, culture fit, goal fit, so that it's really a win for everybody involved. And we're going to be having Vanessa Rosenblum, the president of Pro RE Staffing, as our guest. And that's Thursday, March 28th at this same time. So thank you to you all. Wishing you a wonderful week, wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.